We'll turn now to page, where are we? Page 44, and we'll welcome you, Mark, if you'd like to come forward. Mark, our CEO of the Rotorua Airport. Mark's going to give us an update on the operational matters out at the airport. Welcome. We always love hearing your report, Mark. Always positive.
Thank you very much. And humble apologies, I missed the O&M meeting last month. I managed to double book a board meeting with the O&M meeting, so again, apologies for that. What I'd like to do is just step you through a quick update in terms of 31 December. It has got a bit of a flavour in terms of end of February, to be fair, especially in relation to the terminal work. So we'll jump straight into it. In terms of the financial position, we're currently running a net surplus of 46k versus budget of 138,000. That is about $90,000 behind the run rate, albeit that has normalised as at the end of February. And the reason for it simply is that we have undertaken a significant amount of work on airport in terms of clearing what is a very extensive drainage system for us. We have around about 3k's of drains that run through the airport. And over the last couple of years, with a number of flood events we've had, there's a significant amount of silt has built up in those. So that's been removed, fundamentally taking advantage of very good weather conditions pre-Christmas. In terms of passenger movements, again, we're ahead of the mark on those. And looking at how they're trending through January, February, again, the numbers are looking very solid. Not only in terms of load factors, but also in terms of OTP, on-time performance, again, in which we've had favourable weather conditions and cancellations have been around about 3%. So in general terms, that's consistent with the national average and ahead of where we'd expect to be from a Rotorua perspective. As an extension to that, as at 31 December, we hit our highest target for the last 10 years at 253,000 movements. And in terms of general growth, we're anticipating that will grow around about 4 to 4.5% per annum. And as a barometer, that's consistent with Air New Zealand's view that's been dialed back from 6 to 4%. They're currently running at the moment. The challenge for us, obviously, is, from an airport's perspective, is to stay consistent with the overall growth rate in Rotorua tourism. Obviously, that's double digits at the present time in terms of domestic tourism, and we are finding that a number of folks are choosing to travel by road as opposed to by air. But the announcement a fortnight ago from Air New Zealand with relation to the fares, our view is that will move the bias back towards air travel, as that simply was becoming uneconomic at a regional level. Aircraft movements, there's a really good story in behind this. General aviation, which is generally the smaller fixed wing, private jets, charters, helicopter movements, again are about 600 movements ahead of the run rate midway through the year, and we believe that will continue to grow as we go forward. And we've got several initiatives that we're looking to tap into to grow that sector of the market. And lastly, in terms of health and safety, which from an airport perspective is absolutely top of mind for us in everything we do, we've had no LTIs or significant safety issues on airport over the last 6 months. Just straight into commercial activity. Terminal redevelopment, so we're underway. Anyone that's been out to airport will have seen the Mara signs up and around the place. We've completely stripped out the old International Arrivals Hall. That's been challenging as we're having to address some legacy seismic issues in the building in terms of having to rebuild a number of elements of the structure on that, albeit the building was built in 2002. It had a seismic rating around about 45%, believe it or not. So whilst we're in amongst the redevelopment and refurbishment, we are taking the building to an IL3, which is the national standard for passenger terminals. There's also a significant amount of asbestos in and around the older structures in the site that we are going through and clinically removing. In terms of how programs likely to evolve, and I'll touch on a drawing on this, a plan very shortly that maybe describes this more effectively, but the first stage we're on target to complete by the 10th of May, which is trends. There may be some smaller elements around that, but the team are working very hard towards that date, and the balance of the project, as it sits today, we believe will complete late September. So it will happen in a fairly quick period of time. The master plan, so we've made significant progress in the master plan in the last 6 months, and again I've got some plans that will describe this more fully for you. But look, the essence of the thinking in behind the master plan is simply to try and plug what we believe is a significant opportunity around the growth of non-aeronautical income. At the moment, aeronautical income for the airport is around $1 million, and if you measure that against an asset value of $62 million, that was an increase of about $15 million on last valuation. It's a very low return. It's around about 1.5% return on investment, or return on investment. The master plan effectively enables us to unlock significant portions of the site that are currently rezoned, and we've worked with council through a number of those initiatives over the last couple of years. What we're targeting to do is to effectively break into two areas initially, firstly being the general aviation precinct, and secondly, on the other side of the site, a significant development around incremental facilities for volcanic air to grow the Rotorua activity and to also provide facilities for the rental car companies. We're looking to get underway with the project at the back end of the year. The commercial driver behind this is simply to provide an income stream for the airport that enables council to reduce its contribution to the airport company in funding depreciation and interest. So the more we make as a company through our own activities, the less we need to lean on the council to ensure that we break even. Okay, so any development will incur debt, but the rate of return over and above the debt is the prize that we are chasing, and at the present time, it looks to be, from a risk management perspective, it looks to be very achievable. In terms of the car park, we've completed an optimisation study of the car park. Through a simple remarking process, we can arbitrage or increase around about 60 car parks out of what we have at the moment. You will notice over coming months we will move the taxis and super shuttles into the forecourt. What that will enable us to do is create incremental parking in the car park, and it will provide a better customer outcome in terms of people using those services. We'll also look at putting in place a facility when Uber turns up in terms of an app parking or app pickup zone, basically. And the last is landscaping. So again, for those familiar with the airport surroundings, when you drive in on the left-hand side, you'll note a large fence. It's about 100 metres long, 2.4 metres high. By gate 6, there's some jet blast signs on it. We're looking to complete a fairly significant piece of landscaping into that zone, just to provide, what we believe will be a superior environment from a customer perspective. In terms of how this all looks, so it's easy, I think, to describe this by imagery as opposed to by words. So if I look at the area out to the right-hand side, and sorry, I'll point my into here, which we refer to as Precinct B. We currently have a section of hangars into here. We're looking to develop around about 24 to 30 hangars. We've completed design for those. We've got 3 prototypes, and they will be built to demand, effectively. So we have interest from 4 parties as we sit today that all have specific hangar requirements that we believe we can develop and build hangars for, and ultimately we'll build through that precinct. The horizon on that looks to be around about a 5 to 7 year build. To the left-hand side of it, into here, we call this Precinct A. This is fairly conceptual at this stage. You'll note in here, we've assumed that at some point there will be a roundabout. Again, from a safety perspective, from a growth and capacity perspective, the existing entrance and exit into the airport is not working well, especially at peak flow. So there are discussions through council at the present time, in which we're looking to join up with council, with the NZTA and with other stakeholders and interested parties, for example Eastgate, in relation to advocating for that piece of key infrastructure for the airport. That precinct alone into here is around about 14 hectares. And to get an idea of how that could be from a component part perspective, service station, small retail in here, facilities for the rental car companies. Simply all rental car companies on the airport have outgrown their facilities at the present time, and a new heliport with public facilities and extended tourist facilities into this area here. For parties that are affected, i.e. river rats, etc., we'd look to basically pick up and build new facilities potentially into here or down into the GA precinct. To give you an idea in terms of conversations with the likes of Volcanic, they are forecasting significant growth in their business, and it's not only in terms of hangarage, it's in terms of the heliport side of things, and from a general operations and safety perspective, it's critical that we keep ahead of the wave in this respect. It's interesting too that we've had approaches from other airports for helicopter operators to come in and establish in Rotorua. So it's simply not a case of just providing for growth opportunities for current tenants. We are looking to play this out in terms of attracting new businesses and parties and other airport operators to Rotorua. With a bit more detail in and around this just shows, I'll just go back here. This just shows some of the detail in relation to the heliport and how that would function, and again some more granularity around a new service station site, and just some general lot sizings in through here. And that's the GA precinct, so again you can see the existing buildings here and just underhatched into here. So we're looking to build through here in the first instance, and then stage 2 is building back down through this phase. In terms of the terminal, so as I'd mentioned, stage 1, target completion date 10th of May, which is the old International Hall. Sort of key elements into here is a new entrance into the building here. We've really embraced the wood first principles, and again I'll show you some imagery in and around that shortly. New kiosks for the rental car companies, new toilet block, the existing baggage belt stays as is. We've dropped the ceilings, completely new ceiling grid, they've been seismically up-spec'd, together with some significant work in and around the seismic structure of the building on these walls here. Complete exterior repaint, new offices for all the rental car companies. These are all incremental for us. A number of the companies don't have individual offices. And in terms of business lounge, we're looking at the creation of a business lounge into here, or as an extension to the cafe into here. Stage 2 will comprise demolition of the centrepiece. That's got a seismic rating. We've had 2 assessments of either 27 or 33%, depending on who you believe. The building has significant asbestos throughout, so that really is at the end of its life. That'll be demolished into late May. The creation of a new link walkway in between. Again, a public piazza area out the front here, or courtyard, pop-up cafe in here, large garden area, and we completely refurbish the existing departures hall. We build in provisioning for future scanning, baggage screening. We completely refurbish and represent the relay tenancy, and we're working with a new F&B operator to come into the terminal, which when I announce it, I think is going to be incredibly exciting for the airport and for Rotorua. It'll really present the best of what we have from an F&B perspective. That's the entrance that will come in. A lot of this product in here is a product of Bodo, which is manufactured just out of Rotorua. So that's what you'll see when you come into the building. Just in through the backdrop here are the rental car kiosks, and again they're faced in timber. A lot of consistency and simplification around signage and working with the existing building form. Really trying to open up the space with new glass and glazing throughout. That's what you see when you come in the entrance into the arrivals hall. So again, as I mentioned, we're future-proof with a screening through the centre of the building, and at a point in time in which screening comes at us, and that will either be through screening existing twin prop operations or the resumption of jet services into Rotorua. That screening facility will be there. It simply needs a machine to come in and people to operate it. So the base infrastructure will be developed. That's how it'll look in terms of the forecourt. So again, we're really keen to open the building up. A number of airports you go to, once you're in the terminal, it seems as though you lose touch with the outside. And from a Rotorua perspective, we have wonderful vistas out across the airport out to the lake in Rotorua. So a big part of the design is to have a structure that's visually permeable through here. So there's glass linkways out through the lake. And on days like this, it creates a wonderful opportunity for a space in here in which people can, grab a coffee or a glass of wine in the evening and sit and wait for your plane, your visitors, etc. So we're really excited about this area. So that's the commercial side of it. From an operations perspective, again, we've got a lot on. SMS, which I'd mentioned when I talked last time. SMS safety management systems is a mandatory requirement for all airports to embrace in New Zealand by 2021. So we're fully into a process of designing a safety management system for the airport. And the layperson's interpretation of that is it's really a health and safety system made for aviation. And it works at a three-dimensional level in which we're responsible for all movements within the circuit, which for us are basically bounded by the lake in terms of aircraft coming and operating and utilising the airport. I've just attended Taupo's CAA audit over the last couple of days. They've just gone for their implementation, and it's a very rigorous process that has gone through by CAA to validate that the airport is fit for purpose. So that's an exciting piece of work that we will be embracing over the next 12 months as we move to certification. We've completed surveying the flight paths and noise contours just pre-Christmas. So we're just working to distill those results down. The key there is simply to ensure that we don't have any trees, buildings, other objects coming to the flight paths, and they can be maintained, and we're operating within our noise envelope. Working with NZTA in and around several allotments that we have an interest in on the southern periphery of the airport that were part of the eastern bypass, proposed eastern bypass, in which we'd like to acquire to ensure that we don't risk any issues around reverse sensitivity, noise, and owners purchasing land within what are essential operational areas for the airport. We're working with SPM Assets to develop a facilities management and asset management tool across the airport. Again, just going back to the last valuation of $62 million, we are an infrastructure business and we need enhanced ability around how we manage and maintain our assets going forward. I couldn't tell you what the acronym stands for, Mayor, I'm sorry. Yeah. A number of councils use SPM. In fact, I actually think Lakes Council use them. So they are very well known throughout the local authority world. And the last issue is our rescue fire appliances. So any event that occurs on the airport, anywhere within the 100 hectares we have a mandated requirement by CAA from the moment the crash alarm goes to respond to that event within 3 minutes. 180 seconds, we need vehicles and facilities to do it. Our existing trucks, believe it or not, are 28 and 30 years old, so they've come to the end of their usable lives, basically. So as part of it, we're looking to retire one of them gracefully and use the truck that we retire as a parts repository for the second truck we run. And in working with Tauranga Airport, we've purchased 2 Panthers. which are made in Europe. We went through a fairly extensive tender process for those. So that purchase has been booked, and we'll look to take possession of that truck into July, August, and it will take us about a month to commission the vehicle by the time we load our kit and train the staff on how to use it. But they effectively can be operated by a single person. Everything's sort of joystick activated, so it's, as a piece of technology, they're quite remarkable. And from an airport's perspective, they are the vehicle of choice globally and certainly from within New Zealand. So very happy to take any questions, comments.
Thank you very much, Mark. Your Worship the Mayor.
Mark, the inevitable really that will plug away every quarter. With the air traffic movements, when does that convert into a substantial business case for Rotorua, Queenstown?
Yes, so the last business case that was pulled together for Queenstown was done 2 years ago, so we are embarking on a strategy refresh of that business case. So we've agreed with Air New Zealand that they will support that piece of work, and it does need to be a joint initiative in the sense that we need quality data in terms of how people are travelling, where they're travelling, how long they're staying, etc., in order for us to provide and present back to Air New Zealand a quality piece of work. So, and there's a number of extensions to that in terms of looking at Rotorua's ability to provide a bar plenty hub to the South Island. We have attributes within the airport that our competitors in Tauranga and Taupo don't have in terms of the ability to service jet service. And there's a number of other factors that we will look to fold into the business case. So the objective is by the end of March we complete the scope. We'll agree that with Air New Zealand, and from April on we will embark on this piece of work.
Mark, do you do any analysis of flights? First question is, how many flights Rotorua Auckland per day?
At the moment, we have I think we have two scheduled. We do go to 3 scheduled through summer. The general pattern is.
And of the passengers that go on those planes, how many are going internationally?
I couldn't tell you that, councillor. I couldn't tell you, but that sort of data is the information that we can obtain from Air New Zealand. Correct? Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a long shot. What are you going to do with the 2 Cat fire trucks?
Yes, we will look to decommission one and use it for parts. The reason for that is the essential operating componentry on those trucks isn't built anymore. There's a number of the vehicles in the States that are available, but we had, as an example, we had a pump failure about 12 months ago, and it took a significant period of time to get a new, which we had to build actually, we had to have manufactured and built. So the intention would not be to sell them at this point. We'll retire one, use it as a parts repository, but ultimately within the next 3 to 5 years, the second truck's likely to be retired.
My request, Mr. Chairman, if they do wish to get rid of them, we'd appreciate one going for a museum, which we'll talk later on about.
Put that in writing.
Please don't scrap them.
No, we certainly wouldn't scrap them. They have. It's interesting. You do see a number of them around on the roads as water tankers, etc. They do hold high volumes of fluid, obviously. So there's all sorts of places. They were originally, believe it or not, dropped out of Hercules over Hawaii. They were used by the American Armed Forces based out of Hawaii. Those vehicles. So how you drop a 22-ton truck out of a plane, I'm not quite sure, but that was their past life.
Councillor Gould.
Chair, thank you, Mark, for your report. I noticed at the airport you've got a lot of rental cars, but you don't appear to have many rental vans. Yet at Christchurch Airport, you've got a lot of companies around the airport hiring vans out. Why don't you make Rotorua a destination for rental vans?
It's a very good question. Look, we do have the 6 companies we have operating out of the airport don't specialise in vans typically, though we do find through the course of the year, and the Sevens was a great example, in which we would have had over 20 vans in the car park. So, but specifically, if we look at the evolution of a rental car precinct at the airport, other than providing facilities for our existing users, a target is clearly camper vans and other rental and vehicle hireage options, and that sort of activity and use is ideal for an airport.
But I liked seeing it. Yeah, can you go back to that schema? I mean, it's so logical. With Rangitiarere the other day, they talked about their aspirations too. We're not going to have a clutter of roundabouts along here, are we?
Look, in terms of the corridor, and I think Stavros would be probably a better
Stavros has said
person
no.
to answer that.
So we focus on this one. Thank you. Oh no, it's not the artwork I'm worried about, it's the roundabout.
But you know, other than obviously functioning as a gateway to the airport, that's incredibly important. In terms of the road corridor, it is the first significant piece of new roading infrastructure that people will see within the corridor. So you know, it does serve another purpose as an entry gateway.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your report, Mark, and I'm very pleased to see the general trends of the way things are going, particularly the emphasis moving on into the general aviation side being grown. That's great news. My question is just, do you have any specific contingency plans to cater for what's actually sort of happened recently in Europe with drones shutting down airports? Do you sort of take that into account in your planning? And if so, sort of what would your response be? Do the snipers come out or what?
Yeah, look, we that sort of activity is an issue we deal with day in, day out, to be honest. We have a number of incursions from drones operating in and around the city, especially through government gardens, into the flight paths. So, you know, our general, the general process we run is they're often identified by the tower. You know, they've got eyes on the flight paths when aircraft are coming in and out. If it's close to the airport, we'll deploy our own people to see if we can ascertain where the drone's operating. If not, we would call the police and engage them on it. Fortunately, it hasn't been a huge issue for us. There are other airports and other jurisdictions around the place that have had significant issues with drones. But certainly airspace incursions is becoming a big issue for airports around the world. You're correct, absolutely correct on that.
Well, thank you very much, Mark, for your report, and look forward to your next one. And keep up the good work. The growth is obviously happening there, and you seem to be on track in terms of budget. Oh, it'd have to be a pretty important one. Yeah, you worship the mayor.
Air New Zealand sustainability team coming into Rotorua. And I'm meeting them. What would be our key message for them?
Yeah, I suppose, you know, I suppose what I'm dealing with Air New Zealand is probably in a separate basket in terms of what the Sustainability Committee is interested in.
Sorry, I'm trying to find your end. So, carry on.
What I would say is, you know, it's from a regional airport perspective. You know, there's two things that Rotorua, you know, I believe, and you know, the board is firmly in behind this too, is we have two very unique points of reference here. One is the relationship with Mana Whenua, which is number one. And I, you know, over the last couple of weeks, I attended several hui down at Ramata Marae, looking at the history of Rotorua Airport, and that was a very interesting process for the airport manager to go to the marae and have that conversation basically. But it's you know, it takes consultation and partnership and trying to get together and have a view in terms of what the future looks like and respecting our mutual objectives in a very different way than other airports operate. So you know, that Mana Whenua piece is uniquely ours. And the other is sustainability within the airport. So, you know, we'd like to position ourselves as the leading airport from a regional sustainability perspective. And within it, we've got a draft sustainability plan that lays out a number of initiatives over the next 5 years. The board has asked that I develop that and enhance it with a series of principles. I see the council's actually got some workshops running this month in terms of having a look at what council's doing. We're very keen to be part of that. And, you know, sustainability seems to be a bit diametrically opposed to an airport, but it's actually not. There's a huge amount that we can do in terms of solar, geothermal, stormwater quality on a whole range of fronts. So we can be an exemplar mayor, I think is a way to put it.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mark.
Thanks.
I will just let Mark, would someone like to move that the report from the Chief Executive Officer of the Rotorua Airport be received? Move Councillor Gould, seconded Councillor Donaldson. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. I have one confidential report to discuss, which is the Crankworks Rotorua 2019 support document. The reason for going into public excluded session is to, one, I hope you're all listening to this out there in Neverworld, enable any local authority holding the information to carry on without prejudice or disadvantage negotiations, including commercial and industrial negotiations. Have I got a mover and a seconder? Councillor Hunt, seconded Councillor Maxwell. Is there any debate on going into confidential? Councillor Donaldson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be abstaining from voting on going into confidential because of the agenda item.
Could you please note that in the minutes that Councillor Donaldson will declares an interest? Sorry, what did you say, Councillor Gould? No?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Yes, I'd like to.
Councillor Kawataki.
I have no objection to this one being held in public. I can't actually see why it's being held in. You just asked then if there's any, and I really can't see why it couldn't be held in public. Any debate on this item couldn't be held in public session. And I'm sorry I didn't speak up earlier when Councillor Bentley. Well, mind you, I beg your pardon, I was running late. But when Councillor Bentley brought it up. We should be able to speak fairly on this issue without going into confidential.
The CEO's advice on this, because I mean the motion, part two of the motion that we will be discussing, just gives authority to what we've already got in our budgets. So I can't understand whether that is.
Kia ora.
How that is commercially sensitive when it's already been that we've already got the mandate from the community through the long-term plan to fund the level that has been requested anyway. So I seek your indulgence in terms of that. But Rob, would you like to make a comment before I ask the CEO to?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Actually, this isn't strictly what's in the budgets, because this is an application, a suggestion here is that we should be increasing it. So it is not already included in our budgets, only part of it is. Well, okay, well, having had a read through it, I personally have to agree with Councillors Rukwara Tate and Councillor Bentley. I don't see why this needs to be in confidential at all. It is only a decision of this council as to whether we will increase the funding or not. We can hold that in open, surely.
So through the chair, the reason for this being in confidential is that it allows council to interrogate the financial operation of the Crankworks organisation or the Crankworks event. The Crank MBIE, the operating governing body for Crankworks, has got a number of commercial agreements in place, and without the ability to to actually be assured that those agreements were kept in confidence at this stage. We couldn't actually have a free and open discussion as to all of the arrangements pertaining around that event. The question with regards to your decision, you're quite right, that needs to be very much a public decision. But you'll see that the intent of this paper was to be able to have the debate in confidential that would allow free and frank exploration of all aspects of the Crankworks event, and then secondly, once a decision had been made, the nature and content of that decision would be released.
Yeah, what, can I just say, I wouldn't want any, yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, I wouldn't want any discussion to prejudice the sponsors, other sponsors, their position or how they might view things. So, I mean, obviously, I've just heard what our CEO has said, so I wouldn't want anything to prejudice obviously the commitments and possibly contracts in place with other funders. So then I would support it.
Yes. Mr. Chairman, thank you for the explanation, Mr. CEO. I support we go into confidential, and if we really had a strong feeling of having it out in the public, well then I'm sorry that a lot of good people who work hard behind the scenes, and we saw them here this morning, and the people who are organising are not going to be here to hear us discuss it in open, but mainly for the reasons that has been pointed out to me by CEO. I want to go into confidential. Yeah, I thought I did second. Yeah. Aye.
God, no.